Good morning.
Good morning.
Good.
Him an increase. He placed him in Potiphar's house, and when he was kicked out of Potiphar's house, he was made the trustee in the prison system. In due time, he was set free from jail, and God increased his territory by making him the prime minister of Egypt. And we'll look at that for a short period of time today. But Joseph is a type of Christ who suffered to no end. And when Christ suffered for the last time, he cried out, my God, why hast thou forsaken me? And I'm sure Joseph felt that way many, many times. My God, why hast thou forsaken me? I mean, when he was thrown into a pit, I'm sure he cried out, God, why are you forsaking me? When he was sold as a slave, falsely accused by Potiphar's wife, thrown into prison. Well, now we know why God forsook him, or seemingly forsook him. It was to save a people alive. It was God's providential work to save a people alive, and not just the people in Egypt, and not just the people in Canaan, but you and me. Because God the Son would come through the line of Jacob. And if Jacob's line had not survived, Christ could not come. But God used Joseph to save Jacob alive. When I say Jacob, I mean Israel. So Paul could write in Galatians chapter 4, verse 4, when the fullness of time had come, when God's providential time had come, God sent forth his Son, born of a woman, made under the law, to redeem them which were under the law, that they might receive the adoption of sons. And if sons, then heirs of God. So we have a blessed hope. Looking forward to that consummation. Looking forward to that eternal day when there'll be no end. So today we're looking at chapter 41 of Genesis. We got one presenter who's about to come aboard and present the first subtopic. And that presenter will be Clarence Duke. And if you're ready, Clarence, I think we are too.
Okay, I guess I'm as ready as I'll ever be. It was about since I would have a hard time reading. Would you read what my question is?
Okay.
And I can answer it for you.
How long did divine providence keep Joseph in prison after he interpreted the butler's dream, the winemaker's dream? How long did he stay in prison after that?
Okay, he stayed. It was over 2 years that he had to stay in prison.
Let me give you the. Oh man, I'm sorry. I didn't know I had my microphone muted. He. Let me give you the multiple choice answers. 40 days and 40 nights. I'm gonna give you these before you make your choice. 40 days and 40 nights. Now, what we want you to do is to tell us what happened during these times if they don't pertain to Joseph. 40 days and 40 nights. 10 years. The number is multiple choice B. 10 years. I can go back and repeat these if you want me to. C, over 2 years. D, 30 good years. And that's it. Those are your multiple choice answers.
Well, all I read about was my answer, which was over 2 years. I didn't read about the 40 days and 40 nights, or was it 40 years?
Well, let me do it another way. What happened in the Bible for 40 days and 40 nights?
40 days and 40 nights. Let's see. 40 days and 40 nights.
And we're glad, and we're glad that it didn't last for 40 years.
I'm trying to think what happened 40 days, 40 nights.
There was a time when there was no rain on the earth.
It rained. It rained more than 40 days, didn't it?
No.
The flood.
The flood lasted about a year, but it only rained 40 days and 40 nights.
Okay.
Okay. It took the water that long to subside. That's how much water it had rained.
Yeah,
plus,
okay, 40 days.
And plus, the water erupted from below the earth too. The springs below the earth. So there was a lot of water on the earth. But the rain stopped after 40 days. But the flood continued for almost a year, maybe a little bit more than a year, because the flood started in the first month of Noah's 600th birthday, and 600 years of age, and the flood ended on Noah's 601st year of his life on the 17th day of the second month. So the flood lasted a little over a year. Now, let's see. The next one is over 2 years, 70 and 10 years. What happened in the area that we call 70 and 10 years? And why was that stated in the Bible? 70 and 10 years.
That's how long man his lifespan, 70 and 10 years.
That's right. That's Moses wrote that in Psalms chapter 90, verse 10. He says, "For the days of our years are 70 and 10, and 80 by reason of strength. For they are full of trouble, and we soon fly away." And the thing about it, he said, the days of our year are 70 and 10. So teach us to number our days, or to count our days, that we may apply our hearts to wisdom. You know, there's some people in the world who don't think they're gonna die. That's foolish. And you know, the old people used to say, "There's no fool like an old fool." So I think we need to apply our hearts to wisdom, knowing that we're soon gonna fly away. All right, let's see. What was the other one? Let's see. 30 good years. That's the fourth one. Now nothing happened at that time except when Jesus started his ministry. He was about 30 years old, and so was Joseph when he began to be prime minister of Egypt. So you are absolutely correct. According to Genesis chapter 41, Joseph was stuck in prison for 2 more years, Clarence.
Yeah. That's when Pharaoh had his dream, and then the baker remembered Joseph then.
But the butler remember.
Was it the butler? The butler
Yeah.
remember, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So my question is this: if you were back there in prison with Joseph, what would you rather be, the butler or the baker?
The one that didn't get my head chopped off. I didn't get hung.
All right, doctor. We appreciate it. Sure enough. But it's just amazing how people do forget you. I mean, the butler just plain out, sure enough, forgot what Joseph had done for him and what Joseph's request was. Joseph said, "Remember me, put in a good word for me."
Mm-hmm.
He never did. But you know what, though, Dr. Dukes? What if he had put in a good word for Joseph, and Joseph had been let out of prison and gone back home to Canaan land? Who would have interpreted that dream, and who would have ensured that there was food in the land and food for Canaan? Isn't God's providential work perfect?
Right.
On time.
Always on time. Yeah.
Always on time.
Yes, sir.
Amazing. I mean, God timed it just right.
Yes, sir.
Joseph stayed in prison for 2 more years. But you know what? He was suffering according to the will of God. Sometimes we have to suffer too for the will of God. I think about my friend in North Carolina. His wife called me yesterday morning and said he passed away 7 o'clock the night before. 81 years old. Sergeant Major in the Marine Corps. Body was racked full of cancer. I remember when he was a young, vibrant Marine. And wasted down to nothing. But she said that he trusted the Lord so that suffering is not futile. It kind of reminds me of the Apostle Paul when God gave him a thorn in the flesh. Because Paul had died and gone to heaven. Y'all, he had died. I believe that he was stoned to death. Stoned to death.
Yeah, because.
And then God raised him up to heaven.
Mm-hmm.
Up there with Job, who had suffered so long. And that flesh fell from his bones. Daniel, who had been thrown to the lion's den. Shadrach, Meshach, and a bad Negro.
A bad Negro.
Had been thrown to the fiery furnace. Paul was up there with them. Up there by the river of life and the tree of life. And God sent him back down here. And I can guarantee you, no, I can't guarantee you this, but I can almost say for sure that he saw Jesus in heaven. But he was sent back down here. Sent back down here to this messed up world.
Mm-hmm.
Where he had to fight some more. And God gave him a thorn in the flesh so that he would not tell anybody what he saw in heaven or heard in heaven. And he prayed to God 3 times to remove that thorn in the flesh. And God said, no, my grace is sufficient for you. My favor on you is enough. My salvation that I've given you is enough. My promise of eternal life for you is enough. So Paul said, then I will glory in my infirmities. I will glory in my weakness. But when I'm weak, then he is strong. So I can say the same thing that Paul said, when I'm weak, then I'm strong. I was doing a study this morning, a cursory study on Moses when God called him to go speak to Pharaoh. And Moses told the Lord, I can't talk. I stutter. My speech is weak. I fumble with my words. And God said to Moses,
Mm-hmm.
who make the dumb dumb?
Amen.
Who make the sighted see?
Mm-hmm.
Who make the blind blind? Who made your tongue? Who made the lip? Is it not I? Well, when I read that in Exodus chapter 4, it's God that made me. We I am. You know, a lot of us don't want to go out and witness because we're afraid that we might not say it the right way. That the people we're speaking to might not like us anymore. We might hurt them. But how can you hurt somebody when you're trying to save them from going to hell? How can you hurt them? They're hurting themselves. One of the theologians said that man hates God and man hates himself. If a man don't mind going to hell, he hates himself. We're going to move on because I'm getting a little bit stirred up here. Brenda Houston, are you in the house? Thank you, Dr. Dukes. We appreciate it. Brenda Houston, Woman in the Woods, way down south in Dixon. All right. Let me see what our topic, subtopic is. Which of the magicians and wise men interpreted Pharaoh's dream? Let me see.
And I have the answer. I'm here. I was trying to get off mute. Thank you all for waiting on me.
Before you get the answer, let me.
Down.
Thank you.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Your first multiple choice answer is Jan and Jambres. I can tell you who they were. If you want me to tell you.
You can.
Did you choose them? Those two?
No, I did.
Jans
no,
and
I
Jambres?
did. No.
Okay, you find those names. You find those names written in Exodus 7 and 2 Timothy 3:8. They are the magicians. They are the magicians and so-called wise men who went against Moses when God sent Moses down to deliver his people and to show the miracles that show Pharaoh the miracles that God gave him. Well, Pharaoh had his own magician. Moses threw his rod down, and his rod became a snake, a serpent. Well, Pharaoh's magicians did the same thing. But God enabled Moses to show his superiority over Jans and Jambres when they made their rods turn into snakes also. Well, God had Moses' snakes eat the snakes of Pharaoh's magician. Just swallow them up. So you're saying it was not Jan and Jambres?
No, it was not.
Okay, let me see. Now you know Daniel a prophet. You didn't choose Daniel?
No, I didn't, and we know that he interpreted dreams to King Nebuchadnezzar. Pronounce his name.
Nebuchadnezzar. That's right.
Nebuchadnezzar, but he was not the one to interpret this dream to Pharaoh.
Okay. Do you mind if I let Sister Howard and Deacon Dukes read a couple of passages?
Sure.
Okay. Sister Howard, do you feel like reading?
Okay.
Can you read Daniel chapter 2? I think I'm take it up to verse 42, I think. It's a lot of reading, but we want to show how God enabled his men to interpret dreams. And Daniel, while you look for it, and Daniel not only interpreted the dream, he told the king what he dreamed.
Yeah. Okay, it said Daniel chapter 2. For it and the fourth kingdom shall be as strong as iron, inasmuch the iron break.
No, so start at verse 1.
Verse 1.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, in the second year of Nebuchadnezzar's reign, Nebuchadnezzar had dreams, and his spirit was so troubled that his sleep left him. Then the king gave the command to call the magician, the astrologers, the sorcerer, and the Chaldeans. Chaldeans to tell the king the dream. So they came and stood before the king, and the king said to them, I have had a dream, and my spirit is anxious to know the dream. Then the Chaldeans spoke to the king in Arabic. O king, live forever. Tell your servant the dream, and we will give the interpretation. The king answered and said to the Chaldeans, my decision is firm. If you do not make known the dream to me and its interpretation, you shall be cut in pieces, and your house shall be made as ash. However, if you tell the dream and its interpretation, you shall receive from me gifts, rewards, and great honor. Therefore, tell me the dream and its interpretation. They answered again and said, let the king tell his servants the dream, and we will give the interpretation. The king answered and said, I know for certain that you would gain time because you see that my dream is firm. If you do not make known the dream to me, there's only one decree for you, for you have agreed to speak lying and corrupt words before me till the time has changed. Therefore, tell me the dream, and I shall know that you can give me an interpretation. The Chaldean answered the king and said, there's not a man on earth who can tell the king matter. Therefore, no king, lord, or ruler has ever asked such thing of any magician, astrologer, or Chaldeans. It is a difficult thing that the king requests, and there is no other who can tell it to the king except the gods, whose dwelling is not with flesh. For this reason, the king was angry and very furious and gave the command to destroy all the wise men of Babylon. So the decree went out, and they began killing the wise men, and they sought Daniel and his companion to kill them. Then with counsel and wisdom, Daniel answered Arioch, the captain of the king's guard, who had gone out to kill the wise man of Babylon. He answered and said to Arioch, the king captain, why is this decree from the king so urgent? And Arioch made the decision known to Daniel. So Daniel went in and asked the king to give him time that he might tell the king the interpretation. Then Daniel went to his house and made the decision known to Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, his companion.
Stop that just a minute. Those names are the name that was given to them by Nebuchadnezzar.
Right.
The real names are Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego.
Meshach and Abednego. Wait a minute. Is that right? Okay. That they might seek mercy from God of heaven concerning the secret, that Daniel and his companion might not perish with the rest of the wise men of Babylon. Then the secret was revealed to Daniel in a night vision. So Daniel blessed the God of heaven. Daniel answered and said, blessed be the name of God forever and ever, for wisdom and might are his. And he changed the time and the season, and he removed kings and raised up kings. He gave wisdom to the wise and knowledge to those who have understanding. He revealed deep and secret things. He knows what is in the darkness, and light dwell with him. I thank you and praise you, O God of my fathers. You have given me wisdom and might. You have have now made known to me what we asked of you. You have made known to us the king's demand. Okay, Daniel explained the dream. Verse 24. Therefore Daniel went to Arioch, whom the king had appointed to destroy the wise men of Babylon. He went and said to him, do not destroy the wise man of Babylon. Take me before the king, and I will tell the king the interpretation. And the king answered and said to Daniel, whose name was Belshazzar, are you able to make known to me the dream which I have seen and its interpretation? Daniel answered in the presence of the king and said, the secret which the king has demanded, the wise men, the astrologers, the magician, and the soothsayers cannot declare to the king. But there's a God in heaven who reveals secrets, and he has made known to King Nebuchadnezzar what will be in the latter days. Your dream and vision of your head upon your bed were these. As for you, O king, thoughts came to you, to your mind while on your bed about what would come to pass after this. And he who reveals secret has made known to you what will be. But as for me, this secret has not been revealed to me because I have more wisdom than anyone living. But for your sake, for our sake, who made known the interpretation to the king, and what you may know the thoughts of your heart. You, O king, were watching, and behold, a great image. This great image, whose splendor was excellent, stood before you, and its form was awesome. This image head was a fine gold in chest and arm of silver, its belly and thigh of bronze, its leg and iron, its feet partly of iron and partly of clay. You watch while a stone was cut out without hand, which struck the image on its feet of iron and broke them in pieces. Then the iron, the clay, the bronze, the silver, and the gold were crushed together.
Amen. Stop right there just for a minute, please. Daniel was given an interpretation of this dream. He didn't know it in and of himself. He went to God in prayer.
Right.
And God revealed to him Nebuchadnezzar's dream. Not just the interpretation of it, the dream itself.
The dream.
Nebuchadnezzar had forgotten the dream.
Right.
But God gave it to Daniel and the interpretation. Now,
Yeah.
what Nebuchadnezzar saw was a statue with a head of gold, arms and chest of silver, belly and thighs of brass, legs, two legs of iron, and feet and toes of iron and clay. And these were indicative of kingdoms. Nebuchadnezzar being the first kingdom, Babylon.
Yeah.
Then the arms of and chest of silver that was the Medes and the Persians, two arms. And we'll see those in chapter 5. And then the belly and thighs of brass. That was, anybody know? Alexander the Great.
Oh yeah,
Alexander the Great.
Yeah.
The Greeks. And the legs of iron is what Sister Howard was talking about. That's Rome.
That's Rome, yeah.
Yeah. Now Christ will come. Christ is the rock cut out without hands.
Right.
That's rock cut out without hands. That's Christ. And he will destroy all of these kingdoms
Mm-hmm.
when he returns. Go ahead, Sister Howard.
Okay. And the stone that struck the image became a great mountain and killed men. They saw clay and writing something. Then the iron, the clay, and the bronze, the silver, the gold were crushed together and became like chaff from the summer threshing floor. The wind carried them away so that no trace of them was found. And the stone that struck the image became a great mountain and was filled with the whole earth. This is the dream. Now we will tell the interpretation of it before the king. You, O king, art a king of kings, for the God of heaven has given you a kingdom, power, strength, and glory. And wheresoever the children of men dwell, or the beasts of the field, the birds of the heaven, he has given them into your hand and has made you ruler over them all. You are this head of gold, but after you shall arise another kingdom inferior to yours, then another, which is a third kingdom of bronze, which shall rule over the earth. And the fourth kingdom shall be as strong as iron, inasmuch as iron break in pieces and shatter everything, and like iron that crushes, that kingdom will break into pieces and crush all the others. Whereas you saw the feet and the toes, partly of potter's clay and partly of iron. That kingdom shall be divided, yet the strength of the iron shall be in it, just as you saw the iron mixed with the ceramic clay. And as the toes of the feet were partly of iron and partly of clay, and so the kingdom shall be greatly strong and partly fragile. As you saw iron mixed with ceramic clay, they will mingle with the seed of men, but they will not adhere to one another, just as iron does not mix with clay. And in the days of these kings, the God of heaven will set up a kingdom which shall never be destroyed, and the kingdom shall not be left to the other people. It shall break into pieces and consume all these kingdoms, and it shall stand forever. Inasmuch as you saw that stone was cut out of the mountain without hand, and that it break in pieces the iron, the bronze, the clay, the silver, and the gold. The great God has made known to the king what will come to pass after this. The dream is certain, and its interpretation is sure.
Amen. Thanks, Sister Howard. And now, this is Daniel interpreting King Nebuchadnezzar's dream.
Right.
And Nebuchadnezzar believed him. He actually believed him and promoted him. But but do you know what Nebuchadnezzar did in the next chapter? He didn't want to be just the head of gold. He wanted to be the whole thing.
That's right.
So he erected a 90-foot image of himself made of gold.
Mm-hmm.
About him.
Huh?
I
What's
just
say,
said,
Brenda?
and for them to bow down and pray unto him
Yeah,
too, right?
yeah.
Three
Uh-huh.
times a day, wasn't it 3 times a day?
I don't,
Or
I
at
don't,
noon. I think it one of the, I was
I
trying
don't
to
know how much
remember when I listened to it. Yeah.
yeah,
It might have been at noon. Uh-huh.
yeah.
But I know as you was reading, stating earlier, like with Meshach and Abednego, they wouldn't do it, and how he throw them in the fire furnace
Yeah.
and whatever.
Amen.
Mm-hmm.
Let me see what Daniel does with another dream because they had to send for him too. The same way they sent for Joseph,
Yeah.
the second time they had to send for Daniel. So I would like for Deacon Dukes to read that if you don't mind, Brenda.
Okay, I'm gonna go
Are you
on
there,
mute because I'm
Clarence?
on Facebook real loud.
Yes,
Real
yes, I'm
loud.
here.
Can you read Daniel chapter 5, please?
Daniel chapter 5,
Yes,
Mhm.
sir. We're going to a party, Clarence. We're going to a midnight ball.
starting at
We
1,
Amen.
like to,
Right.
starting
yeah,
verse 1.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Belshazzar the king made a great feast for 1,000 of his lords, and drank wine in the presence of the 1,000. While he tasted the wine, Belshazzar gave the command to bring the gold and silver vessels which his father Nebuchadnezzar had taken from the temple which had been in Jerusalem, that the king and his lords, his wives, and his concubines might drink from them. Then they brought the gold vessels that had been taken from the temple of the house of God, which had been in Jerusalem, and the king and his lords and his wives and his concubines drank from them. They drank wine and praised the gods of gold and silver, bronze and iron, wood and stone. In the same hour, the fingers of a man's hand appeared and wrote opposite the lampstand on the plaster of the wall of the king's palace, and the king saw the part of the hand that wrote. Then the king's countenance changed, and his thoughts troubled him, so that the joints of his hips were loosened, and his knees knocked against each other.
Mm.
The king cried aloud to bring in the astrologers, the Chaldeans, and the soothsayers. The king spoke, saying to the wise men of Babylon, whoever reads this writing and tells me its interpretation shall be clothed with purple and have a chain of gold around his neck, and he shall be the third ruler in the kingdom. Now all the king's wise men came, but they could not read the writing or make known to the king its interpretation. Then King Belshazzar was greatly troubled. His countenance was changed, and his lords were astonished. The queen became, because of the words of the king, and his lords came to the banquet hall. The queen spoke, saying, O king, live forever. Do not let your troubles, your thoughts trouble you, nor let your countenance change. There is a man in your kingdom in whom is the spirit of the holy God. And in the days of your father, light and understanding and wisdom, like the wisdom of the gods, were found in him. And King Nebuchadnezzar, your father, your father the king, made him chief of the magicians, astrologers, Chaldeans, soothsayers, inasmuch as an excellent spirit, knowledge, understanding, interpreting dreams, solving riddles, and explaining enigmas were found in this Daniel, whom the king named Belshazzar. Now let Daniel there be called, and he will give the interpretation. Then Daniel was brought in before the king. The king spoke and said to Daniel, Are you that Daniel who is one of the captives from Judah, whom my father, the king, brought from Judah? I have heard of you that the Spirit of God is in you, and that light and understanding and excellent wisdom are found in you. Now the wise men, the astrologers, have been brought in before me, that they should read this writing and make known to me its interpretation. But they could not give the interpretation of the thing. And I have heard of you that you can give interpretations and explain enigmas. Now, if you can read the writing and make known to me its interpretation, you shall be clothed with purple and have a chain of gold around your neck, and shall be the third ruler in the kingdom. Then Daniel answered and said before the king, let your gifts be for yourself, and give your rewards to another. Yet I will read the writing to the king and make known to him the interpretation. O king, the most high God gave Nebuchadnezzar, your father, a kingdom and majesty, glory, and honor. And because of the majesty that he gave him, all peoples, nations, and languages trembled and feared before him. Whomever he wished, he executed. Whomever he wished, he kept alive. Whomever he wished, he set up. And whomever he wished, he put down. But when his heart was lifted up and his spirit was hardened in pride, he was deposed from his kingly throne, and they took his glory from him. Then he was driven from the sons of men. His heart was made like the beasts, and his dwelling was with the wild donkeys. They fed him with grass like oxen, and his body was wet with the dew of heaven, till he knew that the Most High God rules in the kingdom of men, and appoints over it whomever he chooses. But you, his son, Belshazzar, have not humbled yourself hard, although you knew all this, and you have lifted yourself up against the Lord of heaven. They have brought the vessels of his house before you, and you and your lords, your wives, your concubines have drunk wine from them, and you have praised the gods of silver and gold, bronze and iron and wood and stone, which do not see, nor hear, nor know the God who holds your breath in his hand and owns all your ways, and you have not glorified. Then the fingers of the hand were sent from him, and this writing was written. And this is the inscription that was written: Mene, Mene, Tekel, Upharsin. This is the interpretation of each word, meaning God has numbered your kingdom and finished it. Tekel, you have been weighed in the balance and found wanting. Peres, your kingdom have been divided and given to the Medes and Persians. Then Belshazzar gave the command, and they clothed Daniel with purple and put a chain of gold around his neck, and made a proclamation concerning him that he should be the third ruler in the kingdom. That every that very night Belshazzar, king of the Chaldeans, was slain, and Darius the Mede received the kingdom, being about 62 years old.
Wow. God is not mocked. Belshazzar had this big ball, and there's nothing wrong with a ball, but he began to indulge in his wine and dance, and then he got bold and sent and fetched sent and got the holy vessels of God that Nebuchadnezzar had taken from Jerusalem in 586 BC. In 586 BC, Jerusalem was overthrown by Babylon. And Nebuchadnezzar brought Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and a bunch of other Jews down to Babylon. And he brought those holy vessels out of the temple of God. And then he tore down the temple. He destroyed the temple. And he brought those holy vessels down to Babylon, and he stored them away, put them away. He never used them. But his grandson, Belshazzar, at this ball, began to drink out of those holy vessels, along with his other lords and wives and concubines. And they began to praise the gods of wood and silver and gold. And Daniel said they don't see, they don't talk, they don't move, but he was still praising them. And we serve a jealous God. So God sent that finger of a man's hand. No shoulder, no elbow, no wrist, just the fingers of a man's hand, and wrote, to kill. You've been weighed in the balance, and you've been found lacking many to kill. Many to kill, you parson. You've been weighed in the balance and found lacking. And your kingdom has been cut off. You've been shortened. Your kingdom has been given to the Medes and the Persians. And that very night, Darius the Mede and his army diverted the river that went through Babylon. The river went under the wall. So Belshazzar felt fortified because he had walls around the city and no army could get in. But Darius the Mede diverted the river, and his army went under the wall on dry ground and went in and destroyed the city, and that very night killed King Belshazzar. The interpretation came true. Daniel's interpretation came true. Now, the head of Nebuchadnezzar is gone. Now we see the shoulders and chest of silver, the Medes and the Persians. All right. I think Brenda kind of fell out. But her question was, which of the magicians and wise men interpret Pharaoh's dream? Well, it was not Jan the Jammers, because they were long after Joseph. It was not Daniel the prophet. He was long after Joseph. So it was none of the above. Neither one of those. We know who it was. It was God. God did it through Joseph. Okay. We're going to move on to our next presenter, Ms. Eula Curry.
Okay, I'm here. So I'll listen to my part.
I discuss the meaning of Pharaoh's dreams.
Okay, to discuss the meaning of Pharaoh's dreams, they're talking about the 7 big fat cows and the 7 little skinny cows. And they're also talking about the 7 blasted stalks of corn and the 7 healthy stalks of corn. And of course, we know that that meant the 7 years of plenty followed by 7 years of famine, or 7 years of nothing growing. And then
The land of Egypt would produce 7 years of plenty and 7 years of famine.
okay, so that's my answer. That's the first answer, so that's what I choose. And then the second answer is,
If the people prayed and turned from their wicked ways, God would forgive them and heal their land. I Chronicles 7:14.
okay, so if the people prayed and God would forgive them and heal their land, I really can't remember where that came from.
Second,
It's right. It's right there. It's right there. It's in the text.
Second Chronicles.
Hold on.
Can you?
It's in the text. It's in the text.
Oh, it's in the
Read
text.
it
Just
again.
a second.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. You want me to? Okay, just keep going.
Now read that again, so you'll see
Okay.
where it comes from.
Produce years. If the people prayed and turned from their wicked ways, God would forgive them and heal their land. I Chronicles 7:14. The land of Egypt would always overflow with milk and honey.
So that's all that was there. It must be in Chronicles.
That's right. It said I Chronicles. I mean Second Chronicles
Mm-hmm.
7:14.
Okay.
So
Can Sister Howard read that?
no, it's okay. It's okay. It's okay. You don't have to read it.
Okay.
What I want you to know is this.
Mm-hmm.
We always repeat it. If my people, which are called by my name, will humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then will I forgive their sin and heal their land. Now, who is this written to and about? This is Solomon talking. Who is he talking about? He's talking about Israel, right?
Right.
Yeah.
We always pray that prayer for America. That prayer
Mhm.
is not for America. That prayer was for Israel.
Israel. Right.
America is not God's land. Israel is God's land.
Mm-hmm.
So when people say that, they don't know what they're talking about, or they're just doing after Jesus. If my people, which are called by my name, will humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked way, then will I heal their land. What land is he talking about? Israel.
Israel. Canaan land.
And
Yeah.
Israel alone. God's not going to heal a land that's not his, not until the end of the world. Then he'll heal it when he
Mhm.
create everything anew, but not
Mhm.
now, because everybody in this land is not his. Matter of fact, most people in America don't belong to God.
Amen.
So
Amen.
that verse in Second Chronicles chapter 7, verse 14 is not for us or any other country except Israel, and it's not even for Israel today. God has another plan for Israel that was not in force during the day of Solomon. As a matter of fact, for them, it was a land promise. But today, that land promise is a heavenly promise,
Mhm.
not an earthly promise.
Okay.
The hope now is the hope of glory, not some little dirt spot in Israel.
Amen.
Go ahead, Miss Sheila.
Okay. So my last answer was
The land of Egypt would always overflow with milk and honey.
okay. So we know that that's not it. The land of Egypt will always overflow with milk and honey. I don't recall that at all.
So why
It's
did you choose
Canaan.
that one?
Huh?
Why didn't you choose that one?
Why didn't I choose it?
Yes, ma'am.
Because it's not the right answer. I don't remember that the land of Egypt would always flow with milk and honey.
No,
Would it be America? Who would it be?
it was Canaan.
See,
Yeah, what she said. She's helping.
She's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Now for a period of time, now though, for that short period of time, it was kind of like that when that famine came to the land. But you're right on. You answered the question just right.
Okay. Well, that's my whole presentation.
Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
Booker T. Williams. All right, Sister Harvey, you want to do Booker T?
Let me see. Okay. The magicians and the wise man could not interpret Pharaoh's dreams. Joseph proclaimed it was not in himself to do so. So who accurately
Accurately.
interpreted the dreams? Genesis 41:16. So Joseph answered Pharaoh, saying, "It is not in me. God will give Pharaoh an answer of peace."
That's it.
So the magician and the wise man, they were not able to interpret the Pharaoh dream. So Joseph told them that it would be God who will give the dream. It was not in him, because God will give Pharaoh the answer.
So you don't think Pharaoh had the divine gift of interpretation?
No, he didn't, because he was already asking others what the dream meant. Okay, there's more to that. I'm sorry. Pharaoh possessed the divine gift of the interpretation of his own dreams. Pontius Pilate's wife? No. Abigail, wonderful husband, Nabal? No.
No.
Present, omniscient, omnipresent, and omnipotent God revealed the interpretation to Joseph, which is the correct answer for that.
Can we read about Pilate's wife?
Okay, Matthew 27:19.
Uh-huh.
Matthew. While he was sitting in the judgment seat, his wife said to him, saying, "Have nothing to do with that just man, for I have suffered many things today in a dream because of him." This was when Jesus was being crucified, that he came and told him not to have anything to do with what was going on out there with that, just talking about Jesus. And
And Pilate actually took heed to the dream, and he asked the Jews, "What do you want to do with Jesus?"
Yeah.
Because I found no fault in him. I washed my hand.
Yeah.
And they said, "Crucify him."
yes,
Yeah.
Crucify him.
Yeah.
let him. They all said to him, "Let him be crucified."
Yeah.
The governor said, "Why? What evil has he done?" But they cried out all the more, saying, "Let him be crucified."
Yeah.
And like he said on the cross, "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do."
They don't know what they're doing.
Yeah.
Then the 1 Samuel 25:23. 1 Samuel 25. Let's see, verse 23. Okay, 17. Let me see. 18, 20.
This is about Abigail's husband. That this is just
22. Now,
I threw that in there just to
right.
pique our interest.
Now, when Abigail saw David, she dismounted quickly from the donkey, fell on her face before David, and bowed down to the ground. So she fell at his feet and said, on me, my Lord, on me, let this iniquity be. And please let your maidservant speak in your ear and hear the words of your maidservant. Please let not my Lord regard this accounted scoundrel, this scoundrel Nabal. For as his name is, so is he. Nabal is his name, and folly is with him. But I, your maidservant, did not see the young man of my Lord whom you sent. Now, therefore, my Lord, as the Lord live, and as your soul live, since the Lord has held you back from coming to bloodshed and from avenging yourself with your own hand, now then let your enemies and those who seek harm for my Lord, be as Nabal. Then and now this present which your maidservant has brought to my Lord, let it be given to the young men who follow my Lord, and forgive the trespass of your maidservant, for the Lord will certainly make for my Lord an enduring house, because my Lord fight the battle of the Lord, and evil is not found in you throughout your days.
Yeah, we're not put that in there because of the name of Abigail's husband.
Yeah.
His name was Nabal. And the word Nabal means fool. And the Proverbs say that a wise man sees trouble and goes around it. He avoids it.
Right.
But a fool sees trouble and goes right into it.
Walk right into it.
And we see Pharaoh, in this case, a wise man, because Joseph is revealing to him from God the trouble that he's about to encounter.
Yeah.
Unless something is done about it. And God gave him a way out. And that way out was Joseph. And Pharaoh took that way out.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else, Mr. Howard?
Sir,
go ahead.
Sir, the answer is the last one, the ever-present, omniscient, omnipresent, omnipotent God revealed the interpretation to Joseph.
So you're trying to say that since God is ever present, there's no time when he's not present with us. Since he knows everything at all times, he can't learn anything new. God cannot learn anything new about any of you. Not one thing.
Not a thing.
God is never surprised.
Nothing.
Because he knows what we do before we do it.
Right.
So when Joseph interpreted this dream for Pharaoh, he got all of his information from God. Now, one of the things that I like about the scripture is that it tells us what's ours and what is not ours. Deuteronomy 29:29 tells us that the secret things belong to God. But the things that are revealed belong to us and our children forever. So there are things that we don't know about God. There are things that we don't know about this universe. But the things that God has revealed to us, we can know. He lets us know those things. So let Joseph know that some things are about to happen. And see, the deal is, y'all, there's some things that are about to happen in America, in this
Yeah.
world.
Mm-hmm.
And a wise man acknowledges those things and casts themselves on the Lord. But the fool see those things, and die right in the head,
Walk right.
Dive right into it.
just like the rich man.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else, Sister Howard?
Yeah, I
Yep.
totally agree because he knows everything before it happens anyway. He know what decision, what everything that what people are going to do before they do it.
That's right. You're saying that he knows the end from the beginning?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
All right.
He knew me before I was even conceived in my mother's womb, before the foundation of the world.
Well, it's your time to go, Sister Howard, to the next subtopic.
Okay, it said Joseph declared to Pharaoh God's purpose for his dreams. Genesis 41:25 to 28. Discussed these purposes with the group. The interpretation revealed to him God's future plan for Egypt and the world. Okay, as in the scripture it said, then Joseph said to Pharaoh, the dream of Pharaoh are one. God has shown Pharaoh that what he is about to do. The 7 good cows are 7 years, and the 7 good heads are the 7. The dream are one, and the 7 thin and ugly cows which came up after them are 7 years, and the 7 empty head, lighted by the east wind are 7 years of famine. This is the thing which I have spoken to Pharaoh. God has shown Pharaoh what he's about to do. Okay, and this Joseph was talking to Pharaoh about the dream. That the dream, he had 2 dreams, but both dreams are one. He showed him twice, same thing. So the year of plenty, and then the cows were fat, and then the lean cow was ugly and lean, and how they came to the riverbank, and then they ate up the plenty. And so when this famine comes, it's going to be plenty, but need somebody to really do something about this dream. But see, God is a God of love and a God of a good God, because he's warning a pagan man about something that's about to come. And so even today, men are being warned about things to come, but they're not listening. They think it's something that they need to do in order to bring it to pass, or it should be this way and that way. But if it's God's plan, and nothing he can do about it, he'll put somebody there to bring it to pass. So here in this case, Joseph is the one who was in prison for many years, more than 2, because after the baker and the butler, he's been in there 2 more years before this. And he said before that this famine was not just for Egypt. I mean, it happened in Egypt, but God's going to use a pagan country to supply the needs of all the other countries, I mean, nation around, because It's all God providence. This is his providence. This is what he wants done. And through this, maybe the pagan God, Pharaoh might see God in the plan. Maybe he could have a change of mind. God do things sometimes that help change our mind and trust him and accept him as their Lord and Savior. So we see here that God moved Pharaoh to explain these dreams. To have these dreams, and then he gonna use Hebrew, one person from another nation who's a Hebrew to bring it to pass. And it says here, where's the other one? Genesis 41:28. This is the thing which I have spoken unto Pharaoh. What God is about to do, he showeth unto Pharaoh. Behold, there shall come 7 years of great plenty throughout all the land of Egypt, and there shall arise later 7 years of famine, and all the plenty shall be forgotten in the land, in Egypt, and the famine shall consume the land. See, even though Egypt will supply all that comes to that place, because the famine is going to spread. It ain't going to be just one place. Because we know it happened in Canaan because the brothers came to fetch food too. So this was like a nation. It wasn't as big as the nations are today, but it was going to be really things that a nation's going to be involved. And they shall come. And God gave to Joseph the key or the know-how what to do. It says, there shall rise after them 7 years of famine, and plenty shall be forgotten in the land of Egypt. The famine shall consume the land. So, okay, in the land of Egypt, okay. So the plenty will not be known in the land because of the famine following it will be very severe. And the dream was repeated to Pharaoh twice because the thing is established. See, it is established by God, and God will shortly bring it to pass. So everything that's going here is God is in control.
So you're saying, as Scripture says, in the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses, let everything be established. So God gave him 2 of the same dream, same way he did with Joseph. He gave Joseph the dream about his situation. It was the same dream, but 2 dreams to make up the one dream.
Right.
So, Lord have mercy. Lord have mercy. God is giving us more than dreams today.
Yes, sir.
Let us see.
He's
Yes,
giving
sir.
us the gospel.
Please let us see some of it.
And time is coming when there will be a famine,
Oh, yes.
but the famine is going to be in hell. Where they won't find food nor drink. And no doctors. I take that back. There'll be doctors there, but they'll be in torment too.
They'll be able to help.
Who's that?
My son's phone. That was another telephone, my son's phone.
Oh.
Can you imagine what would have happened if Pharaoh had not listened to Joseph?
It would have been a catastrophe, really.
It would be starvation all over the land. And they were wondering what could they do? There's nothing they could do because they didn't in the time when they could put food away or store things, they didn't do it. They were wasteful. Just like
Joseph,
people are today.
yeah, Joseph listened to the dream and he realized it was a serious matter. That for God has shown the ruler of Egypt what he planned to do for the next 14 years. And Pharaoh was conscious of this fact now that he knew God's plan. Pharaoh was obligated to do what God wanted him to do. And God put it, God put it God put it in Pharaoh's mind to choose Joseph too, to take charge of this matter. And see, Joseph, he knows that the Lord is with, the although he's a pagan king, he realized there's a God that's Joseph life is attached to. That's greater than those things that they're bowing down to.
Yeah.
Yeah, these pagan kings, such as Nebuchadnezzar and Belshazzar, they could recognize the Spirit of God, but they didn't know who he was. When they looked at Daniel and Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, they saw the Spirit of God, but they saw more than one God. They saw him as just one other God that they worship. But at least God gave them enough sense to recognize that these men had God's Spirit in them, even though they didn't know God.
Okay.
This is the deal. This is how that goes. God has revealed himself in a general sense to the whole world through creation. Through creation, God has made himself known. The sun had made God known. The stars and the moon, the air we breathe, the water we drink, Go ahead.
I said, excuse me, please, for a moment.
Okay. So God has made himself known in a general sense through creation and through nature. We know he's there as creatures, but we don't know him in the sense of his personal knowledge. That his name is Jehovah. His son is Jesus. And the Holy Spirit is God. As a people, we don't know that unless there is a special revelation. And God has given us a special revelation. And that special revelation comes through his word. And it comes through his son, Jesus Christ. Those are special revelations. This is how God makes himself known. John chapter 1 says that no man has seen God at any time. But the only begotten Son, who is in the bosom of God, has made him known. So if you don't know Jesus Christ, you don't know God. Jesus Christ said that in Matthew chapter 11, verse 26 and following. He said, no man knows the Son but the Father. And no one knows the Father but the Son, and those to whom the Son reveals him to. So if God doesn't make himself known, if God does not reveal himself to us in a special way, we wind up in hell. We won't know him. All right, let me see.
Rachel? Okay.
Hold on.
I'm back.
Okay, the question is, discuss.
No, Rachel's here.
Well, I know you're here. I'm just reading topic.
Okay.
We got you.
Okay.
We got you. Discuss why Pharaoh's dream was revealed to him double.
Okay.
Right?
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good
Pharaoh's dream
afternoon.
was given to him twice because I think the first time he heard it, he was amazed and didn't really understand
Love you.
how
You want
Joseph
money?
could be interpreting it, what was said, even though he was told by the cupbearer that Joseph could interpret dreams, but Joseph told them that it was only through God that he could interpret dreams because God is it. But here he says he did it two different ways. The first part of the dream, I think the first time he did it, the first one was to tell him what was going to happen in the first 7 years when he talked about it. And he told him what would happen in the first 7 years. And then once Joseph understood that, he gave him back another dream, which is his second dream. And that was the one to tell him about the famine and in the famine. And Joseph told Pharaoh about the dream and the famine, and he told him about the dream when he had plenty. And it was to let him know that he was to save. Up at that time, I think it was that Pharaoh, hearing the dream twice, and he not knowing, he didn't know really how to receive it. But then after being told the dream, he had faith in Joseph's God, because of, he's like everything Joseph put his hand to furbish it. It was plentiful. And he knew that, he felt that Joseph's God was the God who, when Joseph talked about who interprets dreams, he felt that it was him who was interpreting a dream to Joseph, and that he, even though he was not a Christian, that he would believe Joseph and he would give Joseph that part of believing in him. And it says that in verse 32, it says that in verse 32, it says, and for that the dream was double unto Pharaoh twice. It is because, and go to the second part, it is because the things is established by God, and God will shortly bring it to pass. As Pharaoh was telling, as Joseph was telling Pharaoh about the dream, this is when Pharaoh began to trust Joseph, because he had paid attention to things that Joseph had said before, and that things flourished. Everything that Joseph put his hands to flourished. So he believed him, and that's when he let him with the farm, with the food, with everything he was doing, keeping part, as he says, farming and keeping plenty, even with the cows, whatever he was doing, and saving up for those years. And then when he found out in the year of famine that he observed people not having food and the things that they needed even to feed the cattle, and they came to Joseph to ask for to get, even to the point of when they could pay for it, they paid for the things. But at the end, when he didn't have money to pay for it, they even gave up the land and other things to work for Pharaoh to in order to get food to eat. And so, but still, the point was that everything that Joseph had said, and when he told him that the dream was not of his interpretation, but it was God's interpretation of the way it was going to be. And so Pharaoh here believed and trusted the fact that God had given Joseph the ability to tell him what God was expecting and what would happen. And so as it came shortly to pass, that's when the brothers came and everyone was coming to purchase food, and because they didn't have any in the land. And it doesn't come from one place, but they came from all over. And as they purchased food, they realized that they ran out of money. And so that's where the part for came in Pharaoh's behalf, where Joseph ended up telling them, okay, if you can't give me money for it, then your land or your cattle or whatever you had. And then they worked for, after they ran out of that, what they had to give, they worked on the land in order to eat. That was where Joseph was over. That was Pharaoh's. It was the Lord's doing, and it is marvelous in our eyes. And in Matthew chapter 12, in Mark chapter 12, verse 11, it says, verse 11, it says, this is marvelous in our eyes. And it's in red, saying that God is saying that what has happened is not just something that happened, because this is where God knew what was going to happen before it happened, and it has come to pass that way. So in the choosing of Pharaoh was the double his dream twice. I choose discuss why. All of the answers are right there, because they're dealing with the interpretation of a dream. And he had one with the land with plenty, how to save up for the 7 years that would be coming, because he only had 7 years to save and to store up for the 7 years that would come, that would be a famine. And they would have to, and the people in the land, God realized that, God told Joseph, because he realized that Joseph trusted him and trusted him with his word and would obey God for what he told him to do. And he did obey and trust. And then Pharaoh realized that Joseph was special in a way, because, and he said his God, I could like to serve his God, because that's why he put him over everything, because he realized that Joseph, God, was a God that you could trust. And so all of the answers there, I would think would be correct. Anything else?
Yes, they are. All is
Yes, sir.
correct. They all are correct. And you're right on with your presentation. And just to add to what you were saying,
Yeah.
Go ahead.
You know, just before you go there, the part that even brings into the fact where Joseph's family, even the struggles that Joseph had when he was telling his family about his dreams. And then he came back to the cup, and he told the cupbearer his dream interpreted. And the cupbearer did not tell anyone, but left Joseph there for another 2 years in prison. And then the other part was when the cupbearer heard what Joseph told the baker, and it happened in 3 days, I think, to the baker, with it being viciously, cruelly killed, the way he was murdered. But they all recognized Joseph's God, and when they asked that question, wanted to talk about who gave the dream. Joseph said, and it was in there, I forgot what verse it was, where he says, not me, it was God who did. He says something about that one word. And in number 20, in verse, I think 42, chapter 40, I think what he said, it was God who interpreted the dream when they asked about the dream, and he did not take any credit for it. He left it to the fact of God interpreting, who told him what the dream was and interpreted it. And it wasn't his interpretation. But here, what even makes it even stand out more is that when Joseph's brothers and the land where they were became with famine, and they didn't have any food for the animals and themselves, and how he went through with his brothers and everything, and he did not show malice in his heart about it, and how when he knew it was them and they didn't know it was him, and when they found out, they were afraid. And it was like Joseph was saying, don't be afraid. But how he went back and got Benjamin and the father, and he came and he gave them, first he gave them what they needed. And then, because they had to buy, he gave them first some, and then when they tried to buy, he put it in the sack when they was carrying it back. And then the rest of it, when they had to come back again and get, here is showing where even the one whom they had scorned and the one whom they had disliked and was displeased with him, Father, here's where God humbled them to have to come back to him and ask for food, because that was the only place they actually, when everyone else was coming, and they gave up their money, they gave up their land, they gave up their cattle, and they worked for Pharaoh for food and to live, because they had not heard the dream. Only Pharaoh had heard the dream and knew what God had told Pharaoh, what God had told Joseph had to be true. And Joseph prepared the kingdom, and everything there, he prepared for that time. And God allowed him to grow and do all those things that he needed to have to replenish those who needed it. And I think because of that, it brought faith from their God, whom they believed in, the cow and all of that. I think it brought the faith to believe in Joseph's God, that God was a true God, and that when Pharaoh looked at it, it was like God knew the end before it would get there. And his brothers, then when they look at it, they knew that God knew all of this. Even when Joseph knew it, he was so, his humility, his humbleness of compassion that he had for them, even with the things that they had done. And with others who really didn't believe, I believed in Joseph's God, not their God being able to give. I finish.
Okay. Thank you for that. What was the question? Let's see. Discuss why Pharaoh's dream was double to him twice. Let's see what the multiple choice answers are. It was because it was established by God, and I think what you're trying to get across to us is true. God was making a point that this famine is coming,
Mm-hmm.
and it's coming without delay.
Mm-hmm.
So God, he gave him the dream about the kind of the cows.
Mm-hmm.
Then he gave him the dream about the corn and the grain.
Mm-hmm.
Two dreams, double, but the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, Pharaoh had four dreams. One
Mm-hmm.
about the kind of the cows, one about the grain,
Mm-hmm.
corn,
Mm-hmm.
one about the famine that would bring the skinny cows,
Mm-hmm.
and
Exactly.
and the skinny grain, the grain that would not produce. God wanted Pharaoh to know that I'm making a point. I'm highlighting what's about to happen, and you better check it out
Mhm.
and do something about it.
Mhm.
And he did. He did what God wanted him to do. Because it will shortly
Yeah.
come to pass. So he gave it to him double,
Mhm.
2 times. Know that this is coming quickly.
Mhm.
And you know, he said the same thing to us.
Mhm.
Behold, I come quickly. You know not what hour your Lord comes. Don't be like the 5 foolish virgins. When the Lord came, they had no oil. They were not ready. So we need to be ready. And as Rachel said, what was about to happen in Egypt, what the Lord's doing. And it's marvelous in our sight.
Um, can I put in something else?
Mm-hmm.
As I, and maybe I'm wrong, but I think that as God is working with Russia and Ukraine, the whole world is looking at it, and then they're seeing here. It's Russia, who is the nation look like of no, Putin with no compassion. The way that he is destroying the lives of others because of land. And he's taking, and it doesn't matter if they live on the street and dying or shooting, the killing of the children and all. But then as I look at the Senate and the House of Representatives here in the United States meeting, and there is a lack of, with some of them, compassion to feel what is happening to another people. Don't have to be of the United States, but of another people, of another country. And the way we're having so many 400,000 or whatever a day of 40,000 coming into the United States, and they're screaming about the border. And their thing is that they have been saying a country or a place where they can worship, where they can come, where they can eat, where they can feel free. And when I listen at this, I look at it as God's movement here, because the small country that you're talking about, Ukraine, they have no way of fighting really back, but they are standing up on freedom. They're standing up on word. They're asking for help. And whereas the other European countries are not really chipping in to help out, to help, whether it is or not, it's a compassion, whether others disagree or agree, that God is not a part of this. He sees it, but he's looking maybe at United States, who is giving money to another country for the freedom of, and I believe that there are many in there who believe in God and who's not. If they go communist, they will not even be able to read a Bible like they want to do, or to serve God like they want to. It would be like a Armstrong over their head, where they cannot serve God like they want to. But the fact of them, that faith and trust in coming here to this country gives them that freedom to be able to work, because they will. A lot of them who are coming from other countries are working when they get here and they find jobs. They're not just sitting down on it and depending on the government. Yes, the government starts them, but they're working. and working, whereas people in our own country are sitting on their behinds and not doing anything. But here God is then giving. I think he's just looking at the hearts and compassion of man here, who is willing to share, to try to save another nation from the hostilities of what's happening with Russia to them, and the destruction that they're doing. I know there's a lot being taken from this country, but God has put a house over my head. He's given me a job. There are others where there's signs everywhere saying hiring, and people don't want to get the jobs because they're claiming they get more money if they sit down and depend on the government to give them than if they were working a job. And I just feel a selfishness in a way, but the compassion of seeing others being destroyed, even though they're coming and overrunning. God sees how many people are going to New York and to Delaware and to Texas and to Florida. And the grumbling is not helping. God, I feel that he's looking at us and he's looking at our hearts to see if we are willing to be compassionate and to share instead of wanting to just hold on and not help someone else. And how many souls will be won for God to work with them to be of the kingdom? And how many of us are willing to help be kingdom builders? I'm full. It's stressful to me to see and watch the attitudes of those that have so much, and they're tightening their hands to what they have, rather than you see all this killing and everything other places, and there's no compassion to try to help out, to stop, to get. No, it's not our wall. In a way it is, because if Russia drops the bomb for killing people, just live life and not tearing down the buildings, air doesn't stop just in Russia and Ukraine. It goes everywhere. But see, God already knows what's going to happen. And to me, he's looking at this compassion, our hearts. Are we willing to share? Are we willing to try to help a nation to be free? Are we willing to, like you said, go in the streets and talk about it without worrying about? God will give you the words when you get out there and put the people there. And you don't even know when it's going to happen. You have no idea when he's going to put the words. And the people that we think sometimes are the drunkards on the street or whatever, God can give them the words just like he gave the donkey of what to tell us what to do. I might be off my course, but Mr. Percy, I'm finished.
All right. Yeah, we're witnessing what has been prophesied, as you know. That's why we trust our Bible so much, because we believe it to be true, and we believe it to be God's word. And Jesus told us that these things were to come, that there will be wars and rumors of wars.
Right.
And he said that because sin shall abound, the love of many shall wax cold. Nobody loves anybody anymore. Very few people love anybody. People get married for the wrong reasons. Don't get married for love. They get married for the benefits, financial benefits. No thanks. And you got people who get married now just for companionship. Have a cup of coffee with somebody. That's not a good reason to get married. But we do it. It's not because we love the person. It's because we love ourselves. Or at least we think we love ourselves. When we go against God, we actually show that we hate ourselves because we incur the wrath of God. So it's a shameful thing what's happening in the Ukraine and in this country. But God is watching everything, and He has determined a place and a time for all of us. So we did not finish this chapter. We intentionally stopped halfway through it, but we'll get the rest of it next week, and we'll move on down to chapter 50, and we'll be done with chapter 50.
50?
Huh?
Oh, so we're skipping 42?
42.
No, that's not what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying.
Okay.
I'm
Sorry.
saying that we're going to finish up chapter 50 in February.
Oh,
Okay. Okay.
We're just about done with this.
because he
book.
made assignment last week.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. It won't be long. We'll be done with the book of Genesis. And I've been blessed. You guys have blessed me tremendously.
I've been blessed too. Thank you.
Yes. Yes. What a role, when you look at, you say in the beginning, there's a lot, when you read it and you don't understand it, and then you go back and you read it and like it's pointed out and you see things now, it's totally different. It is in the beginning. All the things that were done, all the things that happened, all the people that are involved, like Pilate's wife, and like all of this thing that's happening. But still, when you look at it, and not Pilate's wife, and not Pharaoh's wife, like all of these things that are happening. Wow, I didn't see the depth of this. I read it, but did not understand the depth of all of this that we have been over, how deep it is, and how enriching it is, and how I understand more. I might not be able to tell you the chapter and exactly what verse I found it, but there's a lot I can talk about that I have absorbed. And when people start talking, I'm not so, as they say, ignorant, as the word is being said, not have heard it. I've heard it, not just listen to what you said, but it's buried deep down in where I've actually heard it. It's like people say, He hardened your heart. It's the softening of the heart that I've heard it and I feel it. And then the compassion that goes one way or the other with it, and knowing what God is saying to me. It's deep. It's really deep. Genesis is really deep.
Yeah, Genesis to me is like the beginning of everything.
Yeah, yeah.
It's the beginning of everything.
Yeah.
Because as you move on, then you see it how it intertwine and interfold and things. It's like you're walking through, like you're on a journey. That's what we are on, a journey. And as we walk, we see things, we discover things, we enjoy things. Things happen to us along the way, and God's still there with us. But just like Joseph, his life was turned upside down, even from a child. Brothers didn't like him, and the father adored him because he was the first born of his first love.
Right.
And he ended up being taken away. He think he's dead. Right now, he think his son is dead, when he's still alive, and he's preparing. He's preparing for a nation to come and intertwine into a nation. Isn't that something?
That's right, isn't it? Isn't it? Not just Joseph there in that field, or the boys are in the field working, but it pulls a nation. Just like I was saying, just like what's happening with Russia and Ukraine, and everyone is looking at this. It's not just about Russia and Ukraine. It's pulling everyone else in mentally, stressfully. Seeing what you can do is pulling everybody in.
But see, Putin is at that country, Ukraine. That country has a lot of oil in it. See,
that's it.
And see, it's just not the people and the stuff. He wants that oil. See, he
That's
greedy.
it.
He got oil. He got plenty of it, but he want more. Because I do remember when that country had the name Russia on it. Long
It
time.
was. Yeah.
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 Oh, how that I have to read some history to find out how this thing changed. I don't know how it changed it and taken away, but hey, that country got all. And my son, my oldest son, he's such a wonderful person because he goes and dig and he show you things. He said, "Mom, let me show you on the map," and he showed me on the map where all that oil is, and right where you
Yeah.
see they got
Yeah.
that oil.
Yeah. The thing is, it's like God hardened Putin's heart. It's like he hardened his heart.
Putin heart is hard, and he's looking for what? He is a greedy man.
Yeah. Yeah. He's like, who was that? Was it Khrushchev? Who was that with the horse? When they come out of the horse, he comes out of the horse and he captures everything around him. Hitler.
Hitler.
Yeah, I think of him, and I'm sorry, I'm taking time up, but
No.
this is where I feel like
His
I
mother-
really feel that God has hardened Putin's heart to be that way, and it's going to come out where Putin is going to. He's going to. I believe he's going to change. I believe God's going to change him,
I believe
and somewhere in there,
I believe-
Ukrainians. I
you
mean,
know, somebody on his side of the fence going to get rid of him because they don't like. So those people. Do you know the people in Ukraine have family in Russia?
yes, they do. Yeah, they do. And that's what separates and makes it so hard for them to fight against them because they worry about the families that they have there. But that's all. I just feel like God has hardened Putin's heart right now. And he has no compassion. He's after what he can get under his name and not worrying about the life he's destroying or taking.
He want to leave a legacy back here. That's all he's thinking about, a legacy, what he done.
And come out in the senators' meeting and the Republicans when they had their meeting, the House of Representatives and the senators, and they all were listening to the president of Ukraine as he was talking, and how many of them, Republicans as well as Democrats, agreed to give money to help that country.
You
and
know
what
what?
he said to them,
They after the same thing. United States, when you see the United States helping the country, they after something too. So they after.
I was just going to say, it wasn't just the really the helping all the way, but they were thinking in terms of what they could have.
That's right.
The oil and all of this.
So both people is wanting the same thing.
Yeah. But the president of Ukraine said it's not.
And remember now, those people don't look like us either.
No, they don't speak like us either. But the fact is that they're human. God made them all.
I don't have no. I look. I wish Ukraine would really get their independence back. I really do, and this war would stop. I really do, because I seen they're trying to annihilate a generation when you start killing up children and stuff, and hitting the hospitals and all this. I just don't. It's bad.
It's the same as annihilating a group of people here in the United States, where you have family planning, familyhood. You are annihilating. There's people who would be at the age of voting now and all of this who are dead because of abortion. So it's the same thing, but it's done in two different ways.
But see, the United States is paying for its sin. They enduring some of the wrath of God for things they've done. God is not done. The wrath of God is upon people here, upon this nation. Yes, it is. But they call it, give it another name, like what they call it, global warming and this and that and the other. Yeah, global warming. It's God's global warming.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. At that thing where you're going, what was I going to say, having to do with immediate, come shortly. In the verse where it says, come shortly, they said it then to Joseph was doing the interpretation. Even Joseph was doing it, talking about coming shortly. This is the famine and the where you're having a lot, and then comes the famine.
And you know what?
And here comes shortly is referring to when Christ is going to return, because we don't know the day or the hour. I could be speaking to you today and go in the next minute.
That's true. So true.
All you can do is what? Be ready.
Be ready.
Try to be ready. Like God says, he's already picked his chosen, but I have to be ready because I don't know if I'm one of the chosen. And whatever I do here on earth will be a reward. Has nothing to do with whether I get to heaven. It's a reward if I'm doing what I need to do.
And what he told us, he commissioned us to tell others. That's what he told us. He commissioned us to spread the gospel. That's what.
What's the good news?
That's spread.
Is that commission to everybody, or was that just to the apostle?
It's only for the church.
It's
for the believers.
Is it for every? My question was, is it for every believer?
No, because everybody don't have the same gift.
If it's every believer in God, and that, yes.
It is, but some people do it in different ways too.
There's only one way. That's to preach the gospel.
That's right.
To tell it. To tell the word. You tell them the word, yes. But some people can sing it too.
But now God said, preach it. So he said, sing it or preach it.
He said, preach the gospel.
He said, preach it, not, he said nothing about this. Yes.
Preach the gospel.
And he says, some are chosen and some are not. Some are called to be, and some are not.
He said, many are called, but only a few are chosen.
Only a few are chosen.
And I'm not saying, Sister Howard, that the gospel is not in some songs. That's not what I'm saying. But the impact of the gospel is in preaching.
Preaching the word. Tell her what God has done for you.
Yeah. And everybody not called to do that.
No.
You got handicapped people, you got old people, you got sick people, you got people incarcerated. And when Christ walked this earth, women could not speak to men anyway in public.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, Minister Percy.
Yes, ma'am.
Why you let the women take over everything? Why you all sit back and let the women just take over everything?
Because it's all Eve's fault.
Whose fault?
Eve.
Mr. Percy.
Yeah.
Why are you putting Eve had nothing to do with it right now? The men, Miss Howard, when you asked that question, you know what came to my mind?
What?
Because the men just won't do it. Some of the men just won't. Well, not enough men will do it. You burn out the ones who do it. They burn out.
You know why men get burned out? They do it. The reason that men get burned out who preach the gospel, who pastor, is because everybody wants to preach. And you got all these buildings. You got all these buildings with these men and women pastors. Whenever a man down the street struggling to preach the gospel, and nobody wants to help him.
Jesus.
People are saying, man ain't doing nothing. Well, there's one down the street. Go help him.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that call. someone in the Bible calling Paul to come over to Macedonia.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, that's one of the things that's I think is right about the Catholic Church. They got so many things that are wrong, but the one thing that's right, I believe, is that they have a grip on on these buildings. And in Dothan, we have 200 or 300 Protestant building churches, and we got one Catholic building, one Catholic church. That's good because the Catholic Church is the one that you go to if you need help. You can't go to a Baptist church or Church of God in Christ or Methodist church. They ain't got no money. They got too many mortgages. They got too many light bills. They got too many pastors to pay. They got too many buildings that need roofs. They got too many vehicles, too many buses that need repair.
Yeah, yeah. And I agree with you too, Mr. Percy.
You know,
because when I had a situation, and we were all Catholics, but I had pulled to come to Catholic church, and they remembered me. And I had a situation. It was my light bill went crazy on me, and I didn't have enough money to pay the whole bill. And I remember going to the Catholic church that's up from me, like about 2 miles from me. And they remembered me. They remembered my family. And they had a meeting. And they said, give me your light bill. And that was the end of it. They paid the light bill, told me not to pay it back, but to make sure that I had enough for the next month. They paid to make sure that that was covered. And what I did have, I had enough to cover the next month. And I've not gone back. But I appreciate the fact that, yes, they do have monies where they put in funds. And they're asking you to put in, and they'll tell you to put it into this program. But they do use it to go back and help the people. And like you said, the Pentecostals and the Baptists and others don't do that. If they do it, they've got a mouth that runs from yay to there. And what they do is that they meet together and they discuss it. And it's not told unless you tell it what they've done for others. So, yeah.
The Baptists want to help. Methodists want to help. Church of God in Christ and Pentecostals want to help, but they can't because they got too many buildings, too many pastors to pay. You know, too much insurance to pay. So the Catholic Church, they got one building in Dothan. I don't know how many you have in Miami. You know, it's a larger population, so you might have more than one.
But they're not close together. They're not right around the corner from each other.
Right.
They're not close together.
See, everybody, what it is, people call the priest. They think they got to go into a building. Then they get these little storefront church and all of that stuff, these little church and whatnot. And then next thing you know, instead of preach the gospel, you don't have to be in a house to preach the gospel. Everybody is called to be a pastor.
You're exactly right.
Just preach the gospel, but they got to be in a house. They want to start a church. They got 10 members.
Now that I don't what your minister is saying. So over here, I believe this. So let's go over here and let's start one.
It's split into some of the larger church. Because here recently, I noticed in our church, and this is a recent thing. One of our members became a pastor, and he all of a sudden, after so many years, then he decided to go to and start his church. And some of the members around his age group, I noticed, they gone. So, but I said to myself, they go, but how long would that last? You know what brought me to this church in Gainesville when I moved here in 1981? They was celebrating their 116th anniversary.
Wow.
And I said myself, the name of the church is Mount Moriah. And I said, if a church been around that long, it must amount to something. And it is. I learned so much since I've been in that church. Now, I've learned how to serve, how to teach, and all of that. Teaching little children Sunday school and stuff. I learned because it did. It was on move, and we do mission work still.
Yeah, there are some good churches.
Yes.
And what they started doing, these little I call it this five and dime church. They started inviting to have like their pastors' anniversary and stuff, and they invite Mount Moriah because they know they'll get money. That's all. That's what it was, using our pastor. So he sort of cut some of that out. You only do it here and there now because he's up in age. He had a transplant and he doing good. He been in the hospital here the other day because his sugar went so high. But he's doing okay. Thank the Lord.
What kind of transplant?
Kidney transplant.
Okay.
Yeah. He's doing one. He said, my mama, he said, I love my mother, but I had to inherit her diabetes. He said, but I'm all right. That's how I'm all right. I told him, I said, yeah, your sugar went up because you ate a German chocolate cake that I didn't bake. He laughed. He said, no, I went to some place and I ate some red velvet cake. Well, see, there you go. You're not supposed to do that. No.